Hi, my name is Marianne Dyer, and I'm the Program Director for Adult Redeploy Illinois at the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority. I'm here to provide technical assistance to potential applicants for the state fiscal year 22 Notice of Funding Opportunity for Adult Redeploy Illinois expansion grants. Today we'll talk about Adult Redeploy Illinois, specifics about the Notice of Funding Opportunity, which has 3 tracks: planning, implementation, and pilot projects. Go over some of the requirements of this NOFO and the review process, as well as some additional resources that are available. Adult Redeploy Illinois is a state grant program created by the Crime Reduction Act of 2009 to increase local alternatives to incarceration. We're housed at the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority, which is the state agency dedicated to improving the administration of justice. We're modeled after a successful Juvenile Redeploy Illinois program at the Illinois Department of Human Services. And we follow a best practice nationally known as justice reinvestment, which is intended to drive down corrections costs and use savings to invest in community-based responses to crime. The goals of Adult Redeploy Illinois are to reduce crime and recidivism in a way that's cost-effective for taxpayers, and provide financial incentives to counties or judicial circuits to create effective, local-level, evidence-informed services for people who are justice involved. In exchange for the funding, sites agree to reduce by 25% the number of commitments to prison from their target populations. Another goal is to encourage the successful local supervision of eligible individuals and their reintegration into the locality while holding them accountable. And finally, ARI sites must perform rigorous data collection and analysis to assess the outcomes of the program. Currently, the ARI network is comprised of 25 grantees or sites that cover 43 counties and operate 50 local prison diversion programs. The purpose of this Notice of Funding Opportunity is to expand ARI through grants to local jurisdictions for planning, implementation, and pilot projects that address underserved needs and/or specialized populations, with the overall goal to reduce the number of people committed to prison on probation-eligible charges. Eligibility for this NOFO is limited to county units of government or judicial circuits. A county may submit on behalf of a group of counties or an entire judicial circuit. Other units of local government, private agencies, or not-for-profits are not eligible to apply, but they may provide personnel or services through subawards or subcontracts with the applicant county unit of government. The funds available in this NOFO are approximately $389,000. The grants are expected to range from $5,000 to $189,000, and the estimated number of grants to be awarded is between 5 and 10. The award period is the 9-month period between October 1st, 2021 and June 30th, 2022, which is the end of the state fiscal year. For tracks 2 and 3, additional funding of up to a year may be available, contingent on satisfactory performance and availability of funds. So the first track is Spur planning grants, and the range is from $5,000 to $30,000. The goal of this track is to develop a local plan for a prison diversion program. Examples of ways that plan grant funds can be used are data analysis, resource mapping, or site visits to gather information about how to develop a program that meets the needs of the individuals in the locality. The final report at the end of the planning grant is the local plan to implement a prison diversion program. Note that there's no obligation to actually implement the local plan if you receive a planning grant. We recognize that there's value in the planning process alone. The second track is for implementation, and the range of grants is from $30,000 to $189,000. And the goal here is to implement a prison diversion program from an existing local plan. And that local plan will comprise the program narrative for any applications to track 2. Some of examples of what we would expect to fund in track 2 are problem-solving courts, intensive supervision probation with services programs, and/or other enhancements that build a continuum of rehabilitation opportunities for individuals as opposed to incarceration. The third track is for pilot projects. Grants will range between $5,000 and $100,000, and the goal is to serve specialized populations or add target interventions to a local prison diversion program. That's an enhancement, and that works with perhaps emerging adults with interventions, provides gender responsive programming, supportive housing, peer support and mentoring, or identifies and addresses racial and ethnic disparities in local prison diversion programs, or invests in technology. The program design for this notice of funding opportunity is to support the development, implementation, and expansion of local plans, and successful applicants will explain how addressing the risk, needs, and strengths of a defined target population through effective target interventions will lead to greater public safety and reduce reliance on prison. So throughout the three tracks, we talked about this local plan. This is a requirement of the Crime Reduction Act that created Adult Redeploy Illinois for participation, that a local plan will describe how a local jurisdiction intentionally expects to reduce prison commitments and protect public safety. The elements of a local plan, which is essentially a strategic plan to reduce reliance on prison, include a summary of the program, description of the service area, statement of the problem currently and the unmet need that the proposed program model is intended to address, key partners in the program, as well as the goals, objectives, and performance metrics that will be pursued and reviewed to show that this is working as intended. Um, Also in the local plan, there should be demonstrations of cost effectiveness compared to the cost of prison and certification of any problem-solving courts through the Administrative Office of the Illinois Courts. Also, a full detail and narrative around the resources that are needed to implement the plan. So a target population for any ARI-funded local prison diversion program would be people who have a probation-eligible offense and are otherwise prison bound. ARI works at that part of the criminal justice system right before the prison door to divert people. An individual or the individual jurisdiction in their local plans can choose to work with the entire eligible population or a subset of the population, with the acknowledgement that jurisdictions understand best who it is that they can safely serve in the community, but knowing also that the jurisdictions should be working to divert the most people from prison as possible. So in order to determine the total eligible population, ARI on its website provides a series of eligibility tables. These tables are an analysis of who has been going into the Department of Correction over the past 3 years from each local jurisdiction on each probation eligible charge, and to look at these individuals as a potential target population for diversion going forward. And as mentioned before, a local plan can choose to focus on the entire total eligible population, or may choose to look at a subset that makes more sense according to the needs of the local jurisdiction. For example, only class 3s and 4s, or only those with substance use disorders. So this is one of the tables that's available. You see that the tables can be organized according to judicial circuit, according to individual county, and then it includes the 3-year average of eligible offenses for a prison diversion program. And further, these data are sorted out by the class of the offense and the type of offense, with the goal to zero in on who is currently going into the Department of Correctional probation eligible offenses from a locality and what interventions might make the difference with this population. It should be noted that the Track 1 planning grant process will be looking at these tables, and the whole process will be defining the target population. In Track 2 and Track 3, this population, target population will be defined already, and the focus will be on the target interventions. So speaking of target interventions, any type of program, model, intervention, or combination thereof that's aligned with the goals of ARI and is informed by evidence of effectiveness in reducing recidivism is something that can be written into a local plan. As mentioned before, we've generally funded problem-solving courts, intensive supervision, probation with services programs, and other system enhancements. Innovation and experimentation is truly encouraged in this process. Regardless of the program model, we do expect each local plan to demonstrate these 8 principles of effective interventions: that they assess risk, needs, and strengths, that intrinsic motivation is enhanced through cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, that interventions are targeted to those with moderate to high risk and according to the needs of the individuals, and then are responsive to the different, that are culturally responsive, and responsive and other gender responsive as well. That the staff are trained to provide the different supervision levels and service levels to individuals in the program, that positive reinforcement is encouraged as much as sanctioning, that ongoing support in the community is engaged to support the program and support reintegration into the locality, that relevant processes and practice are measured and included in a feedback loop. Some of the expenses that we would expect to see across the tracks would be in investments in personnel, training, travel, program supplies, as well as those services that are targeted to the individuals in the program: behavioral health, mental health, substance use disorder treatment, as well as wraparound services and transportation and housing. We also want to support, given the rigorous data collection that we require, to support the infrastructure that a program needs in order to collect the data and analyze the data. So some of the other elements of a local plan and an ARI funded program include this reduction goal. So in exchange for the funds, as I said, sites agree to reduce by 25% the number of people sent to DOC from their target population, or they may face a penalty or requirement to reimburse a portion of the grant. And this is an accountability mechanism that was built into the Crime Reduction Act to secure the effectiveness of these investments of ARI dollars in localities. And progress is measured on an ongoing basis in collaboration with grantees, and corrective action planning is available if there are risks of not meeting the goal. In the 10 years that ARI has operated, no sites have had to reimburse dollars from their grants. So performance measurement and evaluation is a key component of any ARI funded program, and they must submit quarterly progress reports and provide mandatory data elements and agree to participate in any external evaluations. Any ARI funded program must demonstrate cost effectiveness compared to the cost of prison. The goal of ARI is to reduce costs related to this, as well as improve outcomes. And right now, the cost of putting a person in, for 1 year in prison is over $34,000. And we would expect that ARI interventions, based on the total budget divided by service goal and reduction goal, are less than that per capita amount. So some of the program requirements that follow each of the tracks include in the planning, that you must include in the application a multidisciplinary team, a description of planning activities, such as hiring a facilitator, training stakeholders, doing the community resource mapping, and then um, agree to submit the final report in the form of a local plan at the end of the process. The track two, the requirements are to demonstrate that assessment of client risk, needs, and strengths is incorporated in any program model along with evidence-informed practices, performance measurement, an agreement to a reduction goal, and reimbursement provision, and then offer evidence of certification if it's a problem-solving court that's being proposed. On the third track, the requirements are also to demonstrate that you know the individuals that you're working with in terms of risk, needs, and strengths. Um, any interventions that are going to be provided are evidence informed, and performance will be measured and reported back. So the timeline for this notice of funding opportunity is it was posted July 19th, and this technical assistance recording is being posted July 22nd. We encourage but don't require a notice of intent to be submitted by August 11th. Any questions related to the notice of funding opportunity must be submitted in writing. They will be answered in writing and posted on the website so that all applicants and potential applicants can benefit from the information. Those questions must be submitted by August 5th. Applications are due by 11:59 p.m. on August 18th. Following that, the Oversight Board and the Site Selection and Monitoring Committee of the Oversight Board will review and approve the designations. Program start date is October 1st. So prior to the application date, pre-qualification these pre-qualification steps must be met. For many people who have already received state grants, these will have already been accomplished, but just a reminder to do this and allow plenty of time. The submission checklist for the notice of funding opportunity is the uniform application for state grant assistance. We need that in two forms, the Word file and then also submitted in PDF with signatures. There's also a program narrative. Each track has a specific program narrative, and those must be submitted in Word, and then along with a budget or budget narrative in the Excel format provided. No signatures required at this point. For track two only, they're also required as attachments to the local plan, a logic model submitted in Word, and letters of support from key stakeholders submitted in PDF. The uniform application form is provided, and again, submit that twice, once in Word and once in PDF with the 3 signatures indicated. Program narrative should be single-spaced, standard 12-point font, 1-inch margins, and should not exceed 20 pages. And this includes all the instructions and the questions text. So do not delete any of the text that are available. Just answer below that and keep within 20 pages. This 20-page limit, though, does not include the logic model and letters of support for track 2. And this is important. All applicants are expected to use person-centered language and referencing people, individual clients, participants, and to refrain from using offenders or felons. We firmly believe that person-centered language is critical to the rehabilitation and reintegration goals that we support and are working towards. The budget narrative, again, is Excel based, and those templates and forms will be provided by the authority. For track 2, a logic model is requested, which includes uh, an, an indication of the inputs in the program, outputs in the program, and the expected outcomes in the program. This is a best practice for program planning, implementation, and performance measurement. We also request letters of support that indicate that the key stakeholders in the program, including the chief judge or presiding criminal court judge, the state's attorney, public defender, and the director of probation and or court services, who are required for a successful program, are behind this plan. The application due date is 11:59 p.m. on August 18th, and all application materials must be submitted via email to this email address, cja.adultredeploy.nofo@illinois.gov. Proposals will not be accepted by mail, fax, or in person. Incomplete applications or those sent to another email address may not be reviewed, and late submissions will not be reviewed. The review process begins with a screening by ARI and CJA staff as the applications come in. Early applications or early submissions are strongly encouraged. Then it will go to an expert panel to review and score. Each track scores 100 points maximum. And then it will go to the Adult Redeploy Illinois Oversight Board and Site Selection Monitoring Committee for review and approval. So I mentioned that there are some additional resources to support application. First, you can look at the ARI website at this address here. We have a grants tab, which has application information, and then a link to the eligibility tables referenced earlier. There's also an apps tab with different data sets that may be helpful in terms of the planning process as well as the implementation process and pilot project development. And there's a resources tab which has different materials and toolkits and webinars related from our 10-year history, topics that we've kind of dug deep into. The website is also a wealth of information. They have a research hub if you want to go into any specific type of crime or target population or even target intervention, all the grants accountability, and the grants page is on the GATA page. And there are also webinars, including a series on developing a logic model. So again, any questions regarding this NOFO must be submitted to cja.adultredeploynofo@illinois.gov up through August 5th. The questions and answers will be posted every Friday so that everybody can benefit from the knowledge. Any questions and responses will be posted again here at this address. And for further information, you can contact Stacy Woods, the ARI program manager, who is the Notice of Funding Opportunity lead, and she can be reached at cja.adultredeploynofo@illinois.gov. Thank you for your interest in Adult Redeploy Illinois, and good luck.